Welcome to The Final Whistle. I'm your host, Drew Ziegler, and I'm here with James Gougosis. Today we will talk about the NFL, college football, and MLB free agency. So our first topic, the NFL, a lot of huge games with a lot of playoff implications. First game, Bucks-Panthers, Bucks winning.
Yeah, the Panthers came out on fire. Sam Darnold had a really good game until the end. They couldn't do anything on offense at the end. The Bucks once again turning it up in the fourth quarter. The Bucks punter had that clutch punt. Yeah. That could have been disastrous, but the Bucks pull it out again. It wasn't really that impressive. Again, it's the Panthers, but they won the division. Brady's in the playoffs again. I'm not that excited about it. It wasn't that great of a game. It's not that great of a team, but at least the Bucks won.
Mike Evans and Tom Brady, finally their breakout game. Mike Evans, 200-plus yards, 3 touchdowns, just a huge game for him.
We haven't seen that all year.
Yeah. And our next game, Dolphins without Tua, lose to the Patriots, and a huge playoff. Could be decide who gets in the playoffs right there.
Yeah, this is an all-time Dolphins choke. Tua not playing, obviously, is a big reason why they haven't been playing well. Teddy Bridgewater is not Tua, but this is going to be one of the worst chokes of all time if they lose next week without Tua starting Skylar Thompson. It's going to be really bad. I think the Patriots somehow with Belichick going to sneak into the playoffs. Mac Jones played well, though. I think you have to give him props for that. He hasn't been playing great this season. Last year he was much better, but he played pretty well against the Dolphins.
Yeah, Dolphins probably the most streaky team in the league. And the NFC East situation, one team's out of it finally, the Commanders. But Giants, Eagles, Cowboys, all in. Cowboys could still win the NFC East.
Yeah, Cowboys have been playing really good football. Eagles have been struggling without Jalen Hurts. It's possible the Cowboys might win the division, and it's even possible they might be the number 1 seed. The Commanders, I don't know what Ron Rivera was thinking about starting Carson Wentz. He didn't even know they could have gone.
I saw that.
He didn't even know they could have gone eliminated that day, which is kind of embarrassing. But I don't know how you start Carson Wentz after. Taylor Heinicke hasn't been playing great, but I think it's pretty obvious that Taylor Heinicke is a much better quarterback than Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I don't know what that decision was. Giants, biggest win of the year. Daniel Jones getting his MVP chance like he deserves.
Yeah, I think that was the best game the Giants played all year. That was the first time they scored 30 points in
2 years. 3 years.
Yeah, I think the defense played really well. Kayvon, again, played really well. I think the offense really came alive, though. We haven't seen that offensive performance all year from the Giants, and that's really encouraging to see right before the playoffs.
Yep. And the Seahawks and Jets. Seahawks eliminate the Jets for the 12th year in a row. And the Seahawks could still make the playoffs now.
Yeah, they're still alive. It's a really tough ending for the Jets. They had a really promising start to the season, but these last few weeks have been really, really bad. I think Mike White's run is pretty much over. He isn't the same quarterback as he was the first start he had a couple weeks ago. I feel really bad for Jets fans because, it's a tough season. Definitely could have made the playoffs. But the Seahawks, they're still alive. Geno Smith played pretty well. I think if they make the playoffs, I think they can make the game against the 2 seed competitive, which is probably going to be the 49ers. I think they can make that game competitive. NFC West rival. Anything can happen, in my opinion.
Jets, I think they need a new quarterback, but they'll probably mess it up in the draft again, so I don't know what they're going to do. Yeah. And Packers destroying the Vikings. Packers looking like their old selves. Aaron Rodgers playing like an MVP right now.
It's scary, man. If the Packers can play like this in the playoffs, they could possibly make a crazy run. But I think what's the bigger story is the Vikings. I think they played really, really bad football. And to be 12-4 and have a minus point differential, that says a lot. They could win close games, but I don't really know how good they are to compete in the playoffs. Getting crushed like that against the Packers, who the Packers haven't been great until, these past few weeks. That's not a good sign if you're a Vikings fan. Kirk Cousins did not play well. Justin Jefferson getting locked up for the first time this year. Justin Jefferson can't be your entire offense. You got to have someone else step up, and nobody did yesterday for the Vikings.
Yeah, it could be a 6-3 matchup, a repeat Giants-Vikings, and it was a close game last time, winning on a 61-yard field goal.
I'm confident. If I'm a Giants fan, I'm confident if we're versing the Vikings game, we're getting Adoree Jackson, Xavier McKinney back for the playoffs, hopefully.
Obviously, just a really scary situation between the Bills and Bengals. Damar Hamlin, hoping he's okay.
Yeah, that that was really scary. Good, the NFL made the right decision of suspending the game. I think it was definitely the right decision.
Yeah, I agree. So now we're going to take a look at the Week 18 games. First up, Saturday night, Jaguars and Titans. Winner clinches the division and gets the playoff spot. Who do you think is going to pull that one out?
The Jaguars have been playing really good football, and the Titans have been struggling down the stretch. Without Ryan Tannehill, I think the Jaguars are going to win. I mean, they got a home crowd. It's probably going to be a playoff atmosphere. It pretty much is a playoff game. But the Jaguars have been playing really, really good. I mean, Trevor Lawrence has been playing like that number one overall pick potential he had. And he's been playing like a top 10 quarterback. And I think Christian Kirk is going to make some big-time plays and pull out the win for them.
Titans will obviously need Derrick Henry back in his full form. Was hurt last week, so that'll be a huge win for them if he can come back. And the Jets and the Dolphins, Jets already out, but the Dolphins could still make a playoff spot if the Patriots lose and they win.
Yeah, I mean, Dolphins obviously they have to win this game, but like if they don't, I mean, this is like one of the biggest collapses I could remember. I mean, they went from 8-3 leading the AFC East to now potentially not making the playoffs. Their hopes of a playoff spot rides on Skylar Thompson. I'm not that confident if they could win. I mean, I am confident they can win, but I'm not confident about them in the playoffs, especially if Tua can't return because of the concussions. But I think the Titans, I think the Dolphins are going to win. I think the Jets, I mean, they got nothing to play for. The morale is pretty low. I think the Dolphins are still going to win.
Yeah, but the Patriots and the Bills, the Patriots have the tiebreaker, so if the Patriots win, it doesn't matter what the Dolphins do. Patriots and Bills, and the Bills could still get the 1 seed.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills still have something to play for, so they're going to start their starters. I don't think the Patriots are going to win. I think the Dolphins are going to get that 7 seed because, I mean, I don't think the Patriots are beating the Bills. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, I mean, that defense, I don't think they're going to hold them up, and I don't think Mac Jones will be able to lead the Patriots to beat the Bills.
Yeah, Ramondre Stevenson will have to play a lot better than he has been if they can even have a chance to win. And the Lions and Packers, they could both make it. If the Lions win and the Seahawks lose, the Lions are in. But if the Packers win, they're automatically in. They have the tiebreaker over the 3 teams.
Yeah, I mean, the Packers have been playing really good football. If you told me that in like a month ago, 2 months ago, if the Packers had a chance to make the playoffs, I wouldn't have believed you. I mean, they played terrible. Aaron Rodgers wasn't playing well, but these past few weeks they've really stepped up their game. I'm also excited to see what the Lions, how they play. I mean, haven't made playoffs since 2016. I expect them to go out swinging, be aggressive. It'd be really exciting to see the Lions win. But I think the Packers have been playing way too good to just lose, especially at home in Lambeau. I think the Packers are going to win by 10 points.
Yeah, the Lions getting in the playoffs, that'd be really cool. But Matt LaFleur has been leading his team well, and Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon have been stepping it up lately. And the Rams and Seahawks, like I said, if the Seahawks win, the Packers lose. Then the Seahawks win. The Seahawks make the playoffs. Can they make some noise in the playoffs?
Yeah, I expect them to beat the Rams. It all comes down to the Packers. If the Seahawks make the playoffs, I don't really see them making too much noise in the playoffs. I mean, the defense isn't. I don't think it's good enough to beat whether it's the 49ers or the Eagles or the Vikings. I don't think their defense is good enough. But just to make the playoffs, that's still a good season for the Seahawks. I mean, they had a big question mark at Geno Smith at quarterback, and he's really played really well. So I think even if the Seahawks lose in the first round, it's still a successful season in my opinion.
Yeah, expect to be one of the worst teams in the beginning of the season, but now have a chance at the playoffs, and Geno Smith will get a lot of big money in the offseason. And in the NFC East, the Giants and the Eagles, Giants don't have anything to play for, but the Eagles could still get the 1 seed. They have to win that game.
Yeah, similar to the Seahawks. I mean, the Giants, big question mark at quarterback. Wasn't sure if they're going to make the playoffs, and now they're going to be a 6 seed. They said they were going to still start their starters, so who knows? Maybe the Giants can pull out the upset, gift Cowboys, an NFC East title. But I think the Eagles in front of a home crowd, big playoff implications. I don't see the Eagles losing this game. I think it'll be close, but I think the Eagles are still going to win.
Jalen Hurts has been out a few weeks, though, so we'll see how their chemistry is after taking a couple weeks off. And the Cowboys and the Commanders, Cowboys obviously expect to win that game. Commanders have lost it. I think the Cowboys are going to beat up on the Commanders pretty good.
Yeah, the Commanders have nothing to play for. Now they're starting Taylor Heineke. Decided to start Taylor Heineke, but Cowboys, they're quietly 12-4. I don't think people realize how good they've been playing these past few weeks. If they win the NFC East, that would be so shocking because 3 weeks ago all the Eagles needed to do was beat the Cowboys, and they have the number 1 seed. They were 13-1. Now they're 13-3. It'd really be a shocker to see if the Cowboys can sneak by the Eagles and win the NFC East.
Yeah, it's been a lot closer than expected. Obviously, the NFC East, a great division this year, which was also unexpected. So when we come back, we will be joined by Stephen Kubis to talk about the college football semifinals. Welcome back. Now we will talk about college football. Our first game, the Sugar Bowl, Alabama destroying Kansas State. Bryce Young playing phenomenal like he should. Projected first pick.
Yeah, Kansas State had a really good start. Deuce Vaughn had that 80-yard touchdown go up 10-0, but it was Alabama the rest of the way. Bryce Young dominated that game. Defense also dominated. Bryce Young really impressed me there. He hasn't really impressed me a whole much this year compared to last year. But he really solidified himself as at least a top 2 pick, in my opinion. I think Alabama really ran away with this game.
Alabama all year has not been the team everybody's expected to. This is probably one of the worst Alabama teams Nick Saban has coached. But when you have a player like Bryce Young, who can just go into a game 15 for 21, 320 yards, all passing touchdowns, he can really control the game. And you can see that how one player for this Alabama team can really show out, and they'll be dominant.
Him and their top defensive player, Will Anderson, both declaring for the draft, top picks probably. And it'll be fun to see where they're picked. And in the playoffs, Michigan and TCU in the Fiesta Bowl. TCU surprisingly coming out on top. What are your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, it was a really uncharacteristic game by Michigan. They could not run the ball effectively, and they couldn't stop anyone on defense. And you haven't seen that all year from Michigan. I don't really understand how. You had a month of preparation, and they were playing some of their best football all year. Donovan Edwards never got the running game going. The defense really struggled at the end. Every time the offense scored some points, they let up a big touchdown. I think J.J. McCarthy had a really good game, especially for an offense that isn't reliable for their passing game. I think he played really well, but the defense really let them down at the end. They could not get a stop.
Last 2 episodes ago, I called TCU, making the championship because I like Max Duggan, but he didn't play well at all. He played pretty good, but not the best to his ability. But the TCU, everybody else on the team stepped up big. Defense, tremendous. They're stopping Michigan's running game, which is amazing, obviously. And they also had those couple picks, which really cost Michigan the points, and then Michigan, turns it over too many times. But TCU took really advantage of everything. They had a good lead and they blew it, but they still managed to play good defense and come on top.
Yeah, TCU 250-plus rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. Just a great running game by TCU and the 2 pick sixes. In our next playoff game, Georgia and Ohio State in the Peach Bowl. Georgia winning by a point. And what are your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, C.J. Stroud really left it all out there. He couldn't have played a better game. He balled out. I think he was really efficient with the ball. He started to actually run the ball, which we haven't seen all year from him, which if he runs the ball when he needs to, that just makes him even better. I think Ohio State's defense did, however, let them down a little bit at the end. It is Georgia at the end of the day. They're still the number 1 team in the country, but that game is definitely winnable for them. I also feel bad for the kicker. Even though he missed that kick, he was one of the best kickers in college football last year, so it's really tough for him. I really feel for him, but Stetson Bennett played really well. I think the Georgia defense did not play well, which, similar to Michigan. We haven't seen that all year, but I guess Georgia moved on. I think Ohio State played better, though.
Stetson Bennett is a 26-year-old man playing with a bunch of college kids. He really showed it out there and coming back in a nice little fashion to win. But, again, Georgia's defense was supposed to be, the most dominant defense. They're undefeated for a reason, but, their defense didn't – it showed, when they play, a equal team as them or semi-equal, they don't play as well. So hopefully they step it up defensively in the championship against TCU. But Ohio State also played pretty hell of a game, But you try to play good defense.
C.J. Stroud did also lose a couple of his receivers in that game. Marvin Harrison Jr., the most notable, still 2 touchdowns and 100 yards.
Yeah, that was
great player.
That was a turning point of the game.
And after this short break, we'll talk about MLB free agency as well as the Carlos Correa situation. Welcome back. Now we will talk about MLB free agency. A few big signings still. Carlos Rodon to the Yankees, What are your thoughts on that signing by them?
Yeah, that was a great deal for the Yankees. 6 years, $162 million. I think that's good value for them. Really, makes their rotation, probably the best in the league, if not at worst top two. I think Carlos Rodon is a really good get for the Yankees.
Oh, no, I'm gonna have to disagree with you there. I think their brothers in New York are still a better rotation, the Mets. But I think it's a good signing for them. I think that's a really good playoff thing for them because playoff pitching for them has just been a curse. They don't have that one guy who can go in there and guaranteed good game. So hopefully, Carlos can give them that.
I think this offseason would have been a disappointment for the Yankees despite getting Judge if they didn't get Rodon. So I think a deal had to get done between them. And another one, Dansby Swanson leaving the Braves in the NL East to go to the NL Central, the Cubs. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think right now the Cubs are probably still not a playoff team, but in the future I think this will be a really good signing for them. This is also really bad for the Braves. I mean, they haven't done anything in the offseason. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. They haven't really added much besides Sean Murphy. And I think having Vaughn Grisham as your starting shortstop, that's a big question mark. Orlando Arcia, if Vaughn Grisham doesn't start, that's a huge question mark. So I think the Braves, them not re-signing him that could cost them an NL East title.
I think him going to the Cubs is a smart move. He explained why, because his grandpa was a fan. I think that's pretty heartfelt, But they also added Cody Bellinger too, which I think kind of twisted his choice of him going there because he's thinking maybe in a couple of years we'll have a shot really at going in the Central. But for the Braves, yeah, it's just a tough loss. I mean, they signed Sean Murphy, but they also had two other really good catchers. So it's what are you doing there? Go spend your money or trade for somewhere else that you need. But now their shortstop's a big question mark, like you said. And I think this will be the reason why they lose the division because Dansby Swanson played great last year.
Did sign Sean Murphy to an extension, but through a trade, so they lost some people with that. And the Rangers continuing their big offseason, signing a lot of players, especially starting pitchers. Can they be a playoff team this year?
I think maybe, I think that they definitely upgraded the pitching, which is the most important thing to make a playoff run. But I think the offense is still a little subpar. I mean, we don't know what we'll get from Marcus Semien. I mean, he had a down year last year. So I think maybe they can sneak in if the AL is really weak and they can sneak into a wild card spot. But I don't think so. I think they're a year or two away.
The Rangers have probably one of their best offseasons franchise history, signing those three major starting pitcher, which is what they needed. They needed pitching. But obviously this owner's showing that he'll spend all the money, new stadium, new DeGrom, new guys in the ballpark. And I think they don't have enough what it takes to take over the Mariners yet. Maybe in a year or two, but I don't think this year. Obviously not the Astros. I don't think they're ever going to pass the Astros.
Yeah.
But I think next year they need to make a lot of signing for hitting-wise. Their outfield's pretty weak besides Garcia. So I think that's what they need.
Yeah, Marcus Semien needs to be like he was on the Blue Jays and what he signed for them to be a good team. And we don't really know what's going on with Carlos Correa. Is he a Met or not? What do you guys think?
I think we're not really hearing much. It's a very legal situation apparently, with his medicals and stuff. I don't know how I feel. I feel like if people were saying, silence is a good thing, I'd be more confident, but I don't really know. I mean, as the days move on, I feel like I'm getting less and less confident because, I want to hear some news. I mean, maybe they're beginning talks again, but we haven't heard anything ever since, Ken Rosenthal reported that that the Mets were concerned with their physical. So I'm passively confident. I'd say I give it a 65% chance, but I don't want to get overconfident where I'm extremely disappointed.
I mean, I'm still confident Carlos Correa joined the Mets. I mean, if he really didn't want to be a Met, some team already signed him already. I think he's clearly showing that he's wanted to be part of this World Series team that he thinks they're going to win it. And I think he's going to stay there. And also heard that on Twitter, Steve Cohen said he proposed a deal to MLB, and it's supposed to be followed up on Tuesday. And I'm waiting for this afternoon because there could be some news, a lot more news that we need to know about Carlos Correa.
I think it's going to happen. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when, because it seems like it's just a Mets game, and that's where he wants to be with Lindor. Thanks for tuning in to The Final Whistle, and we will see you next time.